everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Guadalupe Gonzalez, who is a tax accountant, entrepreneur, and emotional intelligence leadership coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for sharing that long title with me. And we
Well, it comes with certain struggles, but yes,
okay, and
my pleasure.
we're gonna talk about those struggles because I know every single word in there actually came with some type of story. And I know we don't got a long time to talk about all those stories, but we're gonna hopefully get a few of them out of you. But before we actually get into the struggles, the hardships, the goods and the bads, just give the listeners a little bit more of your cultural background and where you grew up.
Absolutely. I was born in Córdoba, Argentina, in a very small town called Santa Rosa de Calamuchita. Of
Mm,
approximately, at the time I was born, it was approximately um, 5,000 people living there. Um, but I grew up in Rosario, Santa Fe, where Messi's from, actually.
okay.
Um, so my entire memories are in Rosario. And I come from um, a second generation immigrant as well. My great grandparents were a mix of Italian, Spaniards, German, and French. So that's where I come from. That's where I
Mm,
my
hmm.
my humble beginning starts.
And could you tell us a little bit more about your childhood in Argentina? Like what were some of the values or the experiences that have shaped your identity and who you are,
Oof.
being obviously in the U.S.
Um, my childhood was not very common. We moved a lot. Therefore, I was constantly making new friends and meeting new people. So it taught me how to be outgoing and, think of outside the box and just put myself out there. So it really um, guided me towards being not being able to be shy in a way.
Hmm.
It holds space for me to be friendly and be able to create new friendships right away, or the resilience of like moving to a different state and city and start all over again and again, because we moved a lot thanks to my father line of work.
Now, when
So
you mentioned, not to cut you off there, but you said we, so we as a whole family,
mhm.
like how many people we talking about?
um, my father, my mother, and my sibling. I have a younger sister,
Okay.
and we grew up very, very tight, very far from family too. So the sense of family was just the four of us.
I see, I see. And when you say move, were you moving a lot in Argentina or were you like moving around the world?
No, we were moving around Argentina.
Okay.
Um, we probably moved at least 12 times in a
What?
matter of 16 years. Hmm.
Jeez. Almost once a year.
Almost once a year. Hmm.
Yeah, and every time was a different school?
Everything was a different school, except
Wow.
for the last 9 years. The last 9 years, we stayed in Rosario, and therefore we still moved within the city. But
Mm,
yeah, it's at least I went to six different schools.
mm. Wow,
And
wow,
it's
wow.
funny because I still have friends from all of the schools that I
Let's
went
come
to.
on. But that goes to show the person you are. You people forget what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So you obviously made your friends feel very special and unique, and there's relationships, those authentic relationships, and that's why they're with you today. So, but that is a lot for a child to really endure. You know, as kids and even as adults, people are trying to find their identity every single day, right? They're reevaluating themselves. But I can only imagine as a young kid coming up, you're like, okay, I found my group of friends, I found my niche, I think I found it, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we got to move and do it again and again and again. And then you obviously were the bigger sister,
Hmm.
so you had to kind of wear it a little bit differently, in order to make sure that your younger sibling is not looking at you like, wait, if you don't like this, then I definitely am not gonna like this.
Yeah, definitely. Like showing the path was a big. like a heavy weight I had for the longest time. I felt that if I did things right in front of my parents' eyes, then my sister will follow.
Hmm. Hmm. That's
And it
always
wasn't
that's a
always that way. But yeah.
right. That's always a hard thing to do when you are the an older sibling trying to really
Mhm.
like, you know, especially when it comes to like transitioning to like the US now, right? So
Oh
just
my
think
God.
about
Yeah.
that. You said you moved 12 times, right?
Only
12
in Argentina.
only in Argentina. So I'm assuming all of those transitions prepped you and groomed you for that transition and moving to the United States. Could you talk a little bit more about
No.
that journey? Oh, it didn't. Oh, wow. Oh,
Okay, because um it was a tough one. Moving to a different city, I mean, I was used to it. Like, okay, whatever, right? But moving to a different country, not knowing the language, not knowing anybody whatsoever, um, it was a it was brutal.
mhm.
And also, going from parochial school, all women, to a mixed public, mixed gender public school was a cultural shock. Um,
So
so
every
it
school you
was,
went to was only this. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it was
Yeah.
parochial school. We were brought up Catholic, not very religious nowadays, but we were brought up Catholic, and so it was a huge cultural shock. I didn't even want to be here. I was like, why are we here? Like I will question my mother all the time. And at that time, being 16 years old, I was like, everything is possible and I'm gonna conquer the world and I'm gonna make it better than anyone else. I'm like, well, life definitely will show you different. Um, but definitely coming here, even though I was very um I had a good level of adaptability. So place-wise, it was just another place. But the hardest part was, the friends and the language and
Yeah.
the endurance that I had to build, and um, how I chose um, to be to make a different to make it a different experience for me, because in the beginning was I don't want to be here.
Yeah, you have to find the positive in that
Hmm.
situation, right? And
Absolutely.
and to most individuals, obviously our family members, our parents, our grandparents, I'm not trying to say it this is say it in this way, but they had a selfish mindset. They were like, we are doing this, this is it. We don't care what you think, we're gonna do this, you're following us, right?
Hmm.
And you're gonna put you in school, you're gonna get an education, and that was it. That's how they would speak to us in a sense, to kind of just make sure we were like, but I have a say too. I have friends and I don't want to leave them, but we had to listen to know and trust that what they were doing made sense. And I assume those hardships truly have molded you and helped you in your profession and also as a mother. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, it it basically made me resilient, and it made me realize that no matter what I plan in life, it could go completely a different way. I mean, so I will always, be like, okay, um, yes, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And I trust whatever the universe, God, whatever you believe in, that it's going to be whatever it's best for me. So I've learned to also trust and let go,
Mhm. Which is hard.
which is
Which
very
is
hard. Surrendering, it's extremely
mm,
hard.
oh mm. That is, and you're surrendering. You're like, I don't even know what I'm surrendering to.
Exactly.
I don't know what's on the other side.
Hmm.
But in order to gain the next step for yourself, sometimes you do have to surrender and give in to where you are right now, commit to it. Say, this is it, I'm here, but I know there's better days ahead of me. So it is a very hard thing to do. And I commend anyone that has gone through that and still going through it. So you were doing it at a very young age, right?
Yep.
And being a bigger sister and trying to
Hmm.
learn a new language and still trying to make sure you do good in the eyes of your mother and your father.
That is
Because a lot of
correct.
a lot of that pressure going on. And when you think back at it, you're like, wait, hold up, I actually did all that. So that prepped you and groomed you for what I'm about to ask you right now. Wearing multiple hats, multiple hats. The title alone, from an accountant, a tax preparer, to an entrepreneur, to a mom, and now a coach. How in the world does someone like yourself manage, juggle, stay sane, keep that smile on your face, and keep shining?
I would like to think it's part of growing up and evolving. And if you, once I find myself too comfortable with something, I'm like, okay, what's next? So
Okay.
for me, there's no like, okay, now I'm good, now I'm settled, that's it, this is it. Like I don't have that in me. We come from like a culture that's very passionate and driven and very culture wise we're very supportive to towards each other. So it's like, okay, what can I do in my life that will make me better and better and better? So I was 13 years old when I decided that I was going to be an accountant per se, because I saw how my family struggle. We come from very humble beginnings, and money was always tight. And there's a reason why we're here today, right? So I was like, okay, if I can learn it, I can teach it. And so
True.
everything that I've done, from tax accountant to entrepreneur to coach to anything that I've accomplished, it started with that feeling of if I can learn it, I can teach it.
Okay, I give you that. Yeah, that's that.
So
That's a smart way of putting it.
So being adaptable to all the things and the drive, it comes from like, okay, what can I do now? Not to only better myself, but to help others.
Hmm. If you want to if you want to see change, you have to be the change.
If it's up to be, it's up to me.
You gotta surrender and be like, all right, look, we could keep talking about how we're gonna nickel and dime and pay the rent and move from place to place and buy new furniture and pay for tuition and do all these things, or I could do things to level up myself, which in turn will level up my family.
Exactly.
So you made a wise decision at that time to get into a field that personally everyone needs. Everyone needs somebody who's
Absolutely.
some accountant. Like,
Yes, we talk about it with my kids all the time. Like the financial awareness that they have,
yeah,
none of their peers have.
yeah,
The
yeah.
emotional awareness and leadership that they have, that they grew up with, none of their peers have, and they should have it in school. This
Mm,
gets to be taught in schools eventually.
yeah. With the struggles that goes on in the world of today, I know teachers do have a very hard time. We had some teachers on before. They say they have a very hard time when
Yes.
trying to really emphasize life lessons to the students and at the same time still teach them the curriculum. So
Hmm.
but obviously when you have parents that are out there like, look, we need to make sure when they come home, we keep it this way. We got to let them know like this is it. So keeping your kids, financial literacy is going to be a massive thing that there's social media, but being financially here, like understanding that world is that it calls for a lot. But if you have someone like yourself, and that you brought up two big words. You brought up emotionally and you brought up leadership, right? So when you think about your kids, when you think about your career, how are you balancing being very emotional and supportive for your family at home, but then showing up to your career and having to be this boss, having to be this leader? Like, how are you juggling the two hats? Because obviously they both complement each other at times, but there's times we got to draw the line. Got to be a leader, got to be a mom.
Yes. I want to say what's working so far, and it could always change because that's life, what's working so far, it's creating that space, um, to first support my children. If they are balanced, if they're in an emotional state where I can delegate, where I can get give them support to receive support, um, that has worked tremendously to have a, balance, you know, family, also work life, because I work a lot and I'm busy a lot, but I include them in everything I do.
That's nice.
So if they feel that they are part of something bigger than them, they understand and they become more empathetic to what I do and what I stand for.
Is that
And
something you,
therefore, they actually stand for other people and their own beliefs, and they it builds confidence in
mm.
them.
Is that something that you saw within your parents that you've kind of adapted and now you're doing it with your kids?
Not at all.
I'm just trying to see where the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree sometimes. So
Nope.
I was trying to find out where we got it at. Where did we
Actually,
figure
on
this
the
out?
contrary, because I didn't see it in my parents.
Mm,
And
mhm,
I really, I really wanted something different, but I didn't have it. But I never like said, "Oh, you never gave me this," or like I was like, okay, again, what can I do? Um, and I had zero emotional intelligence at the time when I questioned myself, what is it that I can do to make it different? Because I didn't like being the victim of my situation, and it made me uncomfortable. And so I was like, okay, I get to do something different. So my kids have a different experience in life about parenting, um, about being a child. And I get a little emotional when I share this, but my sister's a big part of my family and my kids' family. So she came to the house one day and I was having this conversation with the kids about, responsibility and taking accountability and all this stuff. And my sister turned to me and said, "You know what? You have become the mother I wanted to have." And that's it. I was like, this is it. I'm doing the right thing.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that
Um,
story. You know,
yeah.
I know sometimes it's very hard when you got your head
Oof.
down. You don't even know how good you are sometimes. You don't know how great you are. You don't know about the impact that you're really making in the lives of not only your kids but your community. And to have someone that you know, trust, believe in, say those words to you, remind you of the work that your parents had done in the past and the person that you have become, fighting through those struggles and those hardships and still prospering, still giving a better life for your children. You know, some people just settle. They're like, all right, we're here, we're just gonna, but you want more. You want more for yourself, you want more for them, and it's an honor, to hold that type of title, to be a mother. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that's my biggest
Yeah,
achievement of all
that's
of them.
you can have all the accolades on the wall, diplomas and degrees, but if you're bringing up kind, respectable leaders for the future that are going to help this world, like, girl,
That
that's,
is my legacy.
yeah,
This
that's
is what
it.
I'm leaving the world,
You,
yeah,
you
just
can't
yeah.
leave the money. You could leave the house. You know what I'm saying, but when it comes down to that legacy and how it's not just a legacy that you make for yourself, and but oh, she was just amazing. It's like she was amazing, but her kids are even better. And her grandkids are even better than that. That
Yep.
is a true testament to the individual who walked this earth. So kudos to your sister for sharing that with you, and I'm glad it put a smile on your face because you definitely deserve it. You've worked hard, and just from the beginning of your story and hearing some of the things that you shared, it's good to hear that. And I know that your roles that you pay, right? You got every role came with like a different type of experience, a different energy, a different warmth. What made you shift from like the accountant world to then becoming like that emotional, intelligent leadership coach? Like that's another. They don't really mix.
They don't. Every time I tell people I'm an accountant, meaning analytical and logical,
Yeah,
and when I share I'm an emotional intelligent leadership coach, they're like, "What happened?"
yeah.
And so I felt that I fulfilled a dream where it was to be an accountant and to have a financial stable, household. a single mother of two kids. So to me, that was extremely important. Um, so once I created that, I was like, okay, I'm feeling that something's missing emotionally. And so I went through this trainings that teach emotional intelligence and leadership, and I fell in love with it. The ripple effect that it does to people. And so I saw it in my own family. I saw the changes, the ripple effect that created for my entire community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it also urged me to stop the pattern, the repeated patterns, like the way I was raised and the way um, I was brought up. I was like, okay, I want something better.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show my children something different. Um, and therefore, I now have a completely enlightening relationships with my parents. I have strong relation. I made my relationship with my sister a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Every human I come in contact, um, I know I create something special, and it doesn't come from the narcissist or the egotistic. Like it doesn't come from ego. It comes from I want to leave this. I always say this to myself, like I live my life how I want to be remembered.
Come on, come on, you
So
better.
that is what drove me to emotional intelligence and leadership. It's like, how do I want to be remembered?
Mm-hmm. 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 You were dropping some gems, and you're not even just dropping gems. You're also inspiring. Some very deep. You're talking some deep stuff that as immigrants, as first or second generation immigrants. Obviously, this platform is here to help bring awareness, but it's also here to help inspire people as well to live a better life, to want more for themselves, to learn how to advocate the right way, and when we have our thought leaders like yourself come on and really dive in and express that, yeah, you can have the nice, office, but are you a kind person? You could have that nice house on top of the hill that looks amazing, and you have six figures in your bank account, growing
Mhm.
every single day, but are you kind? Are you living a legacy? Are you actually happy? And I like how you're really talking about that on the back end, right? You know, granted, accountant, emotional intelligence coach, like you're diving into different fields and you're like, I'm just going to do this. And I'm not going to do it because I want the money. I'm doing it because I want to actually make a difference. So kudos to you for that, when it comes
Thank
down
you.
to making a difference, because that's sometimes a very hard thing to do. Some people don't want to be that leader to make a difference. They're like, I'll just follow. And
It's
I complain.
uncomfortable.
And I complain.
Yeah, it's
I'll,
uncomfortable.
yeah,
It's uncomfortable to take the lead.
yeah.
It's not
And
a good place to transition like from. But the only way through is the only way out is through. So once you're stuck in a situation or something, you just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Every time
true.
I think about it as like, what's the worst that can happen? Even the worst will be better than doing nothing.
Mhm. And for the listeners that are, hearing your title for the first time, could you just help out a little bit more, define what that means, an emotional intelligent leadership coach? I know you talked about like how you kind of work through it and do certain things, but like what is the true essence of it, and like how does it truly help people with their personal growth?
Well, personally, to me, emotional intelligence is the ability to respond to the unexpected, either situations or feelings. It's the power to choose from possibility rather than scarcity, right? It's like I have this situation or feeling, and instead of reacting, it's like pause. How is this working for me? How is this helping me in this situation or feeling? Or this is happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
That's emotional intelligence in a nutshell. The ability to respond to unexpected situations.
Hmm. Okay. Cool, cool. And now, could you describe a moment where that emotional intelligence helps you navigate a major challenge in your life? I know you kind
Oof.
of hinted on a few things, but is there one of them that actually like stands out to you?
The biggest one in my life, um, I had a very hard relationship with my mother. It was troubled at all times, and being in relationship with her, um, I will say anything that she disapprove or dislike, and she'll stop talking to me. And prior to practicing emotional intelligence, I will take it very personal, and I'll be like, whatever, I'm not gonna talk to you either. Like an eye for an eye kind of
Yeah,
thing, because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
learned, right? I learned, just an eye for an eye. And but that made me uncomfortable. That I didn't really like that eye for an eye theory. And I was like, this doesn't have to be it. But then I will come from a place of victim and be like, I'll call her and I'll talk to her, even though she like put me in the frozen zone. um,
Worse.
but I will be resentful towards it and be like, see, I'm the only one I called, blah blah blah, this and that. So like, from a place of like, I'm the victim, you're the one who always, do this to me, and it'll become even worse. Until I started doing the training, and then I started coaching, and I was like, you know what, this gets to change. And so the next time that happened, I lean into being curious instead of assuming.
Okay.
And so I stopped the conversation. I was like, Mother, what was your intention when you said this? What was the purpose of saying this? So the moment I questioned her, I made her think instead of feeling. Like she was feeling all over the place. And so I made her think about it. So she had to stop. Um, and her response was completely different. I was
Mm.
like, what do you mean? Like, so,
She was
and it
waiting for you to
showed,
react.
right,
She's
right.
waiting for it.
I showed her that I care enough to be uncomfortable to ask questions that I never asked, or question things that I never questioned. But I use that in every relationship today, even, with my peers, with my partners, co-workers. Like if I feel uncomfortable with a situation, I think it's gonna create that. They go like, okay, what was the intention of this? What was the purpose of you saying or doing? And so that's how it helps navigate the biggest challenges,
It is hard.
personal
It's
and
very
professional.
hard to when you're in the heat of it. And I'm glad that you're really talking about it and helping out. We have talked about like mental health and how people deal with a lot of things and some of those struggles that people go to from previous individuals, thought leaders that have been on the show. They just can't really get a hold of themselves in the mix of that tension, in the mix of the I'm in a room and I feel like I'm the only one. No one's hearing my voice. This and it's a reaction to the reaction. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a thought process first. Hold on, let me analyze this a little bit more. And let me see how I could actually navigate this and actually still come up on top. So to you breaking down that situation, you didn't talk about an office situation. You talked about family, which is obviously sometimes the first struggles we all face. Before you get hired for a big company or you become an entrepreneur, you got family issues that we can't run from. And to know how to navigate through that and teach your kids now how to have this same type of conversation, it creates less tension in the household and you're able to kind of, but I'm glad you're having these conversations with your mom at an early age. I mean later,
It's a
like,
ripple effect.
yeah.
How you do one thing, you do everything. And so how you manage your personal and interpersonal relationships, that's how you manage every relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How you treat yourself, you treat others.
Mm-hmm. And
So
when you think about you put you like not to put you in a bubble or something, like what are some of the your best qualities um that you bring to the table every single day in your position?
um the I have a very hard time with that one because the last thing, anyone that coaches wants to do is praise themselves. It's extremely hard. In general, I mean, we can say a lot of things, a lot of good things to others, like, oh my God, you're so amazing, you're like this, like, but when it comes to ourselves, it's extremely hard. So I want to say it in one word, and it's my best quality is being compassionate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. You were really hitting some spots right now. Hitting some spots. It's like a roller coaster that we're going on right now, and I'm very happy to be on this ride with you in this conversation. You're taking me here, you bring me down, you bring me back up. You're like, wait, hold up, Paul. But again, this is why the thought leaders that come on this show, you know, I greatly and the whole Zaka community greatly appreciates how you all have taken the time to really help express these sides of the story that sometimes are the hardest things to kind of speak on your end, but it's also the things that people need to hear to get to that next place in their career, right? So
Absolutely. You're asking very important questions, especially for immigrants. Um, Being an immigrant and coming from places that scarcity is the biggest challenge, celebrating the small achievements and creating win situations is extremely hard.
mm-hmm.
So, I will encourage people uh, to celebrate the small achievements. Create win situations. And when I say create win situations, I'm saying if you never exercise in your life, then creating a plan that it says I'm going to exercise every single day at 6 a.m. It's not going to work, and
Yeah,
you're going to
you're going
create
to stress
yourself
yourself out.
failure.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I was like, create win situations for you. If you never exercise in your life, then start 2 days a week.
yeah,
Then you'll feel that you achieved something, and so on and so on.
yeah.
So set
And
yourself for success.
yeah, let's get some tangible goals on that chart.
Absolutely.
And now when you're talking about setting goals, and I know many immigrants, first or second generation immigrants, struggle with belonging in the workplace, right? That's like do I fit in? Do
Wow.
they accept me? Am I good enough? Those questions where you go, you might have a smile on your face in the office today, but then you go home and really question, how do you use your coaching, your leadership to kind of help individuals see their true value, see their true power, um, and learn how to then advocate for themselves to do better and want more for themselves.
It is a very powerful question. And I'll tell you why it's powerful because it is crucial to work at a place that you feel at peace, right? And accepted and acknowledged. But sometimes it is true that we can only give what we have. So if you work for an employer that doesn't have the qualities that you look for, then I will encourage you to be that person. I'll encourage you to be like, okay, what is it that you want as an employee? What's working, what's not working, and what can you do? Who can you be in order for you to have that peaceful environment? I was hired not too long ago at a company that they wanted to see. They were they were very specific, like they were like ethnicity wise and religious wise, and they opened the doors to a wide variety of cultural, dynamic. So they hire people from South America, and they hire people from India, and so it was a lot more diverse, but something was not working for them. So the conclusion was that nobody knows how much you know unless they know how much you care. And it's been said
Okay.
over and over and over and over that the moment that you start praising and acknowledging and, you know, motivating your employers, you'll get the results. And as an employee, you get to do the same because maybe your employer has no idea of how to create that for yourself. So I implemented a system in that work environment where every single day they had to complement each other. Doesn't matter if it was from the uh, person that cleaned the office to the CFO or CEO. So it wouldn't matter. And that created an environment of playfulness and authenticity.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of what do you want to create? What is it that you can do to have different results?
And what you just described right there, it wasn't like it wasn't a massive, but it was massive. The effect was life changing, right?
Yes.
Just being kind, saying, giving, helping each other out, complimenting each other, asking for advice and being able to offer advice. You know what I'm saying? Um, those are small things that could be taking place, whether being corporate or whether being as an entrepreneur, that you could be making a difference in your own community, which in turn produces a better relationship with your coworkers, your staff. It creates a better energy because obviously everything around us is energy. So it creates a different energy within the office, and then people want to work harder, right? And you get more
100%.
productivity, right? You're like, wow, sales have gone up. Why? Because I'm kind, right?
That was the
Sales,
biggest impact on
yeah,
on that specific client. They were like,
yeah,
wow, our sales went 20% more in just a matter of a
yeah.
month. And I was like,
And
kindness, it's just what works every time. I mean, it's just so when you see that change, that's why I do what I do. It's so fulfilling. It's just so I don't care about the sales. Great. They had 20% more in sales. Wonderful. But just that to see that change from the CEO to the lady that cleans the office, that was beautiful to watch.
I really, really, really admire what you're saying right there. You said a lot of things, but that right there is like one of the things that I am truly gonna implement in my own life now, even more. Like I know I do it, but now I need to be more mindful of like it actually works. It works. It's not something you do and you're like, okay, hopefully no, be kind. Be kind. It give compliments to people. Great job. You're doing a wonderful job. Keep it up. I'm proud of you. Those little things could create a massive, massive difference. And it might take a couple of tries to do it because some people don't, especially as immigrants as well too. Sometimes we don't know how to receive those compliments. We're not so open to being like, "You're amazing." You're like, wait, hold up, me amazing? You got to appreciate. Like, I don't even know if I fit in.
Uh-huh. That's right.
I don't even speak your language like that. I'm still learning. I still
Mhm.
got my books at home. You saying I'm great? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. It's hard sometimes to accept that, but you are right. And I love your leadership and the way you think. And it brings me to another question that I thought about is that as in your profession and with all your experience, like what leadership qualities do you believe are essential today, especially today, right? For women and more importantly, immigrant women to have in their life.
Oof, this is a tough one because what I'm about to say is going to make people uncomfortable, especially women, because what I will say are the most important, it's curiosity and vulnerability. And most of the time, vulnerability comes with the feeling of being weak. And women, they want to be empowered and they want to be like
Yeah.
taken serious. And so, but vulnerability, it's a superpower. And vulnerability does not mean I'm going to cry every time something happens to me. But vulnerability is I'm going to be human and I'm going to tell you this is how I'm feeling or this is what I'm going through. And me holding that space will create, you know, possibility. Like I said before, it's to do everything that is in your power to create possibility.
Mm.
Um, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be, okay, I want to be I'm gonna talk to my boss and I'm gonna be like, I'm upset because this, and that. Or it doesn't have to be a certain way. Just show who you truly are. And when I say curiosity, I go like intentional. If you're gonna go to your coworker or a partner or whomever you're conducting business with, ask questions. There is never, ever, ever a dumb question. Because even if you think it's dumb and be like, you know what, I know it, I think I know this, but I want to make sure that we have the best results. So how do you do this? Or this is how I do it. Do you have a better way to do it? Like, you know, those kind of things. So curiosity and vulnerability, I think it's gonna make us more, it avoids assumption and it makes you human in a way.
Now, that was on a sense of, and I agree. Thank you for sharing that right there. That was for like that immigrant woman. But now, if I switch it now and I say, what can employers do to help create um, a more inclusive, safe environment by utilizing emotional intelligence? I know you said being kind, but if you could give me another example of what employers could do, because obviously this platform is obviously for all different types of listeners. So whether it be the immigrant or first or second generation immigrant trying to make it, but it's also beneficial for the employers to know how to communicate to those individuals. So what could they be doing to help like uplift their community?
Ah, this is what I normally will tell uh, an employer. And the best way to create a safe environment, um, it's to keep your promises, um, to be responsible and always do your best, right? And I know the HR, um, it's extremely harsh, and there's things you can and cannot do. Um, but keeping your promises is extremely important because it creates trust with your employers. So if you as an employee, um, you tell your employees that this is the way it's going to be, and the delivery, this is how much I'm going to pay you, this is what the benefits you're going to have, or whatever, to create a safe environment for any immigrant, that to never feel that they could be laid off for any silly reason,
Mm-hmm.
and to create a safe space for them to be themselves. And again, curiosity is a huge one, no matter if you're an employee or an employer. And so ask questions, don't make assumptions, don't take anything personal.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Some
It avoids
people,
conflict, it creates a safe
yeah.
environment where respect and trust are, build. Yeah, I think
Mm.
so.
What is what are some particular ways business professionals, especially immigrant women, balancing multiple roles can strengthen their emotional intelligence?
Some ways are to attend workshops, better themselves, but create community. So anything that creates community, friends, family, have a good support system. It's extremely important for to create emotional intelligence and to practice emotional intelligence. Who you gonna practice, and who you gonna feel more comfortable practicing emotional intelligence at your own friends and family. And at the same time, it's the most challenging one because the feedback that you're gonna get, you may not like.
All right. All right.
But understanding that feedback is just information, so it's hard to take it personal to a certain extent, right? I mean, there's feedback that you'll be like, okay, I want to take this personal because I don't want to show up this way. So busy, very busy professionals and businesses and support system create that support system.
Okay.
Like ask for that support, because being from immigrant, being an immigrant from immigrant parents, we don't know how to ask for support. It's like, I can do it. I can do it
Yeah.
all,
Like
right?
it
I
not.
don't need help. Okay. Help is a big word. Like help, I'm not hopeless, so I don't need you, but it's not about helping. It's about supporting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
supporting is not helping. Supporting is me, asking, what, I will feel less busy or more, you know, that life is shared with, like I said, with my children, but also my coworkers. And this is the support I need from you right now because I have a heavy workload. And
Yeah.
then the other person is willing or not willing, but then you ask for that support. You're not asking for help. You're not hopeless.
Yeah.
It's a
It's a
huge
way.
difference.
It's if you're gonna ask for help or support, you still have to put work in.
Absolutely.
Some people, their help is you do all the work for me. I need help. Do all the work for me. No, no, no,
No,
no. You gonna meet me halfway, but that's support. You know what I'm saying?
that's
That's
right.
that level of support. And you have really, really, Guadalupe, you have really touched on a lot of key things. Emotional intelligence. You talked about making decisions that you were like, I don't know if it's gonna benefit me now, but it'll benefit me in the long run as being an accountant for the family. But you saw you want to make change. Um, you know, being kind. That could be a new currency in the world of today. Just be kind. We ain't talking about dollars. The new currency is just being kind, right? So you've expressed a lot of great things. I know a lot of our listeners um, are very pleased with the information you're sharing, and I want to leave you with this one last question. And you touched on it before, but I want to make sure we're staying with it. The legacy, right? I love that word. I really, really, really love when people say it. I love music, so when I hear about like legends and the legacy that they left, I'm like, wow, Michael Jackson. Like if you got people still moving
Mm.
today, you got grandpa, grandma out here busting the move, right? When Michael comes on, but like, what legacy do you hope to leave as a mother, as a leader, as a successful entrepreneur, in your on your own terms? Like, what would that legacy look like?
Well, they're completely different, right? Because, one it touches more the emotional being, and then the other one's the more the professional being. So as a mother, I would like to leave the legacy to my children that they know how to love, to care for someone, and but first of all, to love themselves. That's
Come
the
on,
legacy I will love for my kids to have, is like understanding that if you love yourself and you're patient with yourself and you have compassion for yourself, then you can have it for everybody.
yeah, that's
And
important.
and enjoy, and to be playful, and just to be authentic, no matter how that looks like. It doesn't have to be a certain way. As a leader, as a professional, if I can just make one little change into someone's life, that's it. If there's anything that I will say that will trigger something in you to do something different in your life, that's the legacy. It's like, and biggest thing is, like we said in the beginning, trust the process and surrender.
Ooh. That seems like the book right there. I don't know if you're hinting that you're gonna write a book.
Not a writer whatsoever, but you never
Oh,
know.
hey, look, the way you were dropping some gems today, I feel like we got some stuff. We got like chapter one at least right
Maybe.
there.
You never
Uh,
know.
well,
With
well,
me,
look,
once I get bored with something or too comfortable with something, I go to the next thing. So
you
you
did
never
say that.
know.
You did say that earlier. So kudos to that. Well, Guadalupe, thank you so much for just really, AKA Guada, right?
Coach
Shout out to
Guada.
the nickname. Thank you so much for just sharing your time, your stories, your passion, your energy, your inspiration with our community. Our platform is very grateful to have individuals like you, thought leaders on, really just helping making this world a better place, right? And we're gonna start by one person, one listener at a time, and we greatly appreciate that. And I want to let the listeners know if you want to hear any more inspirational stories like Guada, right? Please check us out on ZakaConnect.com or follow our social, Zaka Connect, and follow us and on your podcast.